One of the biggest mistakes I see many women in leadership make is that they believe by simply putting in the hours and having a proven track record is enough to get you the recognition you deserve and get the opportunities. However, this is simply not how it works. The please pick me energy is something that I see a lot of women fall into and waiting for recognition instead of taking the power into your own hands. And there is one thing that you can do that is going to absolutely catapult you into the stratosphere in terms of how you're viewed by others. And that is to work on your executive presence. So in this week's episode of the show, I'm going to be sharing 7 ways you can boost your executive presence. Be sure to stick around to the end because number 5 is something that you're probably not doing. And if you're not doing this one thing, you're going to be in trouble. Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the 360 Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Lucy Gernon, and I just want to say thank you so much for being such a loyal listener of the show. And if you're brand new here, you are so very welcome. I do weekly episodes every single Wednesday to try to support you to advance your leadership career as a woman with more confidence without sacrificing work-life balance, because women can have it all, okay? It just depends on what it all means to you. If you haven't done so already, I would so appreciate if you would rate and review this podcast on Apple or Spotify, because every single little 5-star review or every little note that you write on Spotify or Apple tells the algorithm that you like the content. And when the algorithm thinks you like the content, it will push it to more people, which will help more women be inspired and will really help us to grow the show and help me with my mission to support 100,000 women leaders to step fully into their power and unlock their potential so that they can make an immense impact in their organization while building a life filled with success, balance, and happiness, resulting in more harmony for everybody. So you can help me with that by a little simple review. So please go and do that. So in this episode of the show, I'm so excited to be back talking to you about executive presence. So today you're going to learn some current trends in executive presence and the things that you need to know. The number one skill that you must master to influence people and become magnetic. And we're going to talk about 7 ways that you're going to boost your executive presence. And just as a reminder, in case you don't know, I have created a fantastic digital course called the Executive Presence Blueprint. And you can grab that if you just go to lucygernon.com/EP. Now, this is a self-paced course, and because of that, it is a fraction of the usual investment to work with me, but it is jam-packed with value. The feedback has been incredible. There's so many amazing tools, lots of mindset shifts. Somebody even said it feels like that I'm in the training room with you because I really connect with you in this training. So if you want to build your executive presence, it's literally a no-brainer. You've got to go get this course. You can check it out with the link in the show notes. So let me talk a little bit about why I want to cover this. Executive presence is really an elusive concept, I believe. A lot of women are told you need to work on your executive presence, or they may go, I really know I need to work on my executive presence, but that's not very tangible, right? Like, what does executive presence mean? Now, traditionally, leaders have been told that to progress, you need to have executive presence. And this used to mean, being forceful, being the white man in the suit and having a right appearance. But there's been so many shifts over the last decade when it comes to executive presence. And there has never been a better time in the history of our planet to be a woman, because what people want more than ever right now is what I'm going to share with you in this week's episode of the show. So Harvard came out and they did a study, and they released the data in January of 2024, but they looked at the differences in executive presence between 2012 and 2022. And there has been a number of shifts, okay? There's been a number of shifts that if you're still modeling old ideals of what executive presence is, which might have been being very nearly like the corporate mask and being extremely polished and, being very forceful in your communication, you're doing it wrong, okay? The world has changed dramatically, and we have all the next generation coming up behind us who do not think like us. They do not want the same things as we used to want I'm a millennial, I think it is. So you really need to start to think about your leadership style, and that's what's going to literally set you apart. from all the other leaders in your organization, because even if you're at a senior manager level, this is absolutely something that you should be focusing on, because it's the thing it's going to get you noticed. But it's just like sowing a seed. It's not going to necessarily be something that gives you immediate impact, right? Sorry, you will make an immediate impact, but over time, the more you practice these behaviors that I'm going to speak to you about today, the more you're going to get noticed and be recognized as a senior leader because of this executive presence that you're exuding. But nobody will be able to put their finger on it, right? They're not going to say, God, you've great executive presence. They might in a performance review or if HR are there, but they're just going to know, she's here and I feel safe. And that's exactly what you want people to be saying about you. Okay. So I'm just going to jump straight into the 7 ways that you can boost your executive presence. So the number one thing that you need to do to boost your executive presence is, drumroll please, boost your confidence. Okay. Boost your confidence. Confidence is the number one trait when it comes to executive presence, because when you're confident in yourself from a human psychology perspective, it creates a sense of safety. Okay. So when you have confidence in your actions, in your communication, in your interactions with others, in your decisions, in how you carry yourself, in your body language, these things scream executive presence. Okay. And a lot of women, and I've spoken about this many, many times on the show, often tell me that they feel like a girl and they want to really be seen as a great leader, or they're in this kind of please pick me energy, as opposed to this is what I want and this is what I'm capable of, and here's the roadmap, or here's what I suggest to support me to get there so I can add more value to the business, etc., etc. And so a lot of the work I do with my own clients is on the whole area of confidence, because I didn't used to be confident. Believe it or not, we have a podcast now with probably nearly 150 episodes. I'd imagine when you're listening to this, I don't even know what number it is, because I've recorded how many today? I've recorded 6 podcasts today, and I'm tired. But we've recorded a couple of hundred almost podcasts. And if you go back, I'd say, to episode number 1, and you listen to the difference between how I'm showing up today versus back in my earlier episodes, you're probably going to hear, I would imagine, a hint of uncertainty. But the thing is, when it comes to confidence, is that confidence needs evidence. So it's not that most people think I'll do it when I feel confident, but actually it's all about feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Because when you feel the fear and you do it anyway, and then the result isn't as bad as you think, which it never is, or it's better, which often happens when I talk to my clients, you're going to build confidence that way. So the first step to really exuding your executive or proving your executive presence is to work on your confidence. The second thing then, and I alluded to it earlier, and it is one of the most crucial executive presence skills, and that is making faster decisions. Now, you don't have to make decisions under pressure. You need to make, decisions that have been methodically thought out, that have been, there's a structure to it. And in my executive presence blueprint course, I have a really, really simple 4-step framework I call the do it method, to support you to make better decisions. It's not convoluted. There's not 12 steps. There's not subcategories. There's not loads and loads of pages you need to go through. It's literally a 1-pager, because I'm a big believer in simplicity. But the simplicity behind it is, step 1 in the method, the D, is super important, because that's the step where you're going to be gathering the information that you need. And that's probably the step I would say you need to pay most attention to. And again, if you grab the course at lucygernon.com/EP, you can, you'll see the decision-making framework in there. So 76%, I think, or 77% of executives believe that it's a crucial decision making is a crucial skill for executive presence. So if you find yourself making rash decisions, slow decisions, indecision, decisions where you're not displaying confidence, you're not going to be seen as a confident senior leader, which is what executive presence is all about. Okay. And it's really vital for you to be able to master the art of decision making as a leader. And if you don't, and if you're a procrastinator or you act too quickly, that's not what good executives do. Good executives have the right framework, they make the right decisions, and they move forward. Okay, and that's what you need to be thinking about. I invite you to think about, should I say. The third thing is about being more assertive. Okay, so when it comes to communication, like communication is again one of the cornerstones of executive presence. People expect senior leaders to have superior communication skills. And of course, confidence comes in there with everything. It underpins everything that I teach because it's a vital leadership skill that's so often overlooked. And that's why in the course, actually, I have a whole module where I'm walking you through my belief boost method to support you to see how freaking amazing you really are. So we can stop all this self-doubt and just move forward together. And when you have the confidence, it's about being more assertive. But again, I often hear like, I want to learn how to be more assertive, but I still want to be nice. So in the course, actually, that's exactly why I created a full guide with the exact language. It's a cheat sheet that people have saved on their phones that give you the exact phrases you can use to be more assertive while still being nice. And again, I'm getting savage feedback on that as well. People saving it on their phone and everything. So I want you to know that, like, for you to be taken really seriously, you're not being like a bold girl by being assertive. You're actually just communicating. Okay. And you've got to work on assertive communication. It doesn't mean being forceful. I would say I'm quite an assertive communicator, but I still care. And one of my downfalls is sometimes I'm way too direct because I need to learn to filter. But we all have downfalls, right? So it's okay, but it's all about you working on that within yourself and for yourself. The fourth thing then is it's really, really important that you have a very clear vision and mission. So your organization will have a vision, but all great leaders have a vision, whether that be for an overall vision for what you're trying to accomplish over the next 5 years within your department or your region or your company, or it might be a clear vision for how this particular project is going to run. And what's really important, and this would kind of fall under the pillar of gravitas, which is that elusive kind of trait that, I always kind of shake my body when I talk about gravitas. I feel like it's a really grounding word. It's just this kind of charisma, this like, I know who I am, I know exactly what I'm about, and I'm taking you along with me. You've got to get clear on your vision, okay? And then you've got to be able to move people emotionally so they come along with your vision as a leader as well. The other thing then that is super, super important if you want to boost your executive presence is to watch your body language. Okay. So body language is, oh my God, it is unbelievable how much your body communicates without you even realizing it. I remember before I had my Botox, which by the way is reminding me I need to get redone. I remember like I would have had a face like a slapped arse, as we'd say in Ireland sometimes. If something went wrong, I'd have it all screwed up and I'd be like unknowingly coming across super judgmental because I probably was. And it was only when I started working with my coaches, I became super self-aware. And that self-awareness made me realize that sometimes my body language was either judgmental or it might have been closed. So I have ADHD and I find it hard sometimes to make eye contact. It makes me a little bit uncomfortable. So it's something that I challenge myself to do quite regularly because I know that it's really, really, really important. It's really important when you're speaking to make eye contact with the people around you because as humans, that's how we connect. And the more you work on your eye contact and the more you use what I call your executive zone of influence, which again, in the course, I teach you exactly where that zone of influence is, how to maximize it. And there's a couple of really, really smart little body language tips in there that you can literally implement today. I give you visuals and everything that are really going to boost your presence. And again, these are things, guys, that are all kind of subliminal things that you're emitting. as opposed to saying, but they are communicating volumes. So that's the other thing you can do. The next thing that you can do is to work on your personal brand. All great leaders have thought about their personal brand. If you think about how Oprah Winfrey shows up, like she has a very strong personal brand. She's professional, yet she's very empathetic. She's kind of one of us because she shares her struggles. She's very authentic, which is why people like her. She's very accomplished. Like that's all been strategically designed, right? And personal brand exercises are not about you becoming something you're not. They're actually about coming home to yourself. They're actually about you forgetting about all the noise of the aunt who told you you weren't good enough, or the coach who laughed at you when you didn't do something right, or the bully in school who put you down, or the parent who emotionally abused you. You've carried all of that shit with you, and you've tried to be the people pleaser, or you've had a defense mechanism built up, and you've tried to mold and fit into society, just like I have. But the beauty of personal branding is that you get to come back home to yourself, and you get to decide, how do I want the world to see me? What are the best bits of me that I want to portray? Because you're not faking it. You're actually just really becoming and unlocking that next version of you. And again, in the course, I give you a whole module on personal branding, which is so, so important. The sixth thing then that you can do to boost your executive presence is all around authenticity. So just like I've alluded to several times, people in that Harvard study that I spoke about, they spoke in the study about how being polished was a super important trait back in the day. Is it still important? Yes, absolutely. I wouldn't recommend rocking up to work in a creased t-shirt, stains on your jeans. It's not going to help you with executive presence. However, you can still be authentic to yourself, even in terms of how you dress, but you still have to have the polished style. So let's just break it down into two sections, right? You've kind of got the authenticity and how you outwardly portray yourself in your clothes and how you look in your appearance. And then you've got the authenticity around who you really are. So if we talk about appearance, for example, for a second, I have a very, my own personal style would be kind of smart casual, always has been, but I don't do it to kind of dress like anyone else. It's just, I dress like how I feel comfortable. And I had Carla Miller on my podcast. She's another fabulous leadership coach, talking about what she calls her, what does she call it? Her cloak of authority, where to build your confidence, if you imagine yourself putting on like an invisible cloak, or even like putting on something physical that boosts your confidence, that's going to boost your executive presence. For example, when I speak, you will usually see me wearing a blazer because it just gives me confidence. Always has done. Like my whole career, I've loved blazers, but I'll usually pair it with like a pair of jeans and a little pair of heels. And that's just how I feel comfortable. If you prefer to wear trainers, that's absolutely cool. But I would recommend that, you look polished in how you're doing it. You want to look kind of put together. And then just building on the authenticity piece, like again, all of the data shows from that Harvard study and multiple others that people want to know who you are. And this is where you defining your personal brand and being authentic, like this word of authentic leadership, what the fuck does it mean? It just means being you, but it means strategically crafting a brand that is authentically you, that's appropriate for the situation that you're in. So I just say, for example, I just swear, like I just said the F-bomb there. Probably wasn't appropriate right now. Oops. Maybe to say it, but it just came out. It's part of who I am. I swear sometimes, we all do. But if I was presenting to a board, I probably wouldn't use the F-bomb, okay? I probably wouldn't use it because it's not really appropriate in that setting. But I kind of feel safe to do it here with you guys because I feel like we're just having the chats when we're here on the podcast. Do you know what I mean? So you're still being authentic in all situations. You're just kind of tailoring your language or tailoring a little bit based on your audience and the circumstance. It doesn't mean you're being fake. What's being fake is if you try to be something you're not, and that is exhausting. Okay, exhausting. So you don't need to do it anymore. And then finally, the seventh thing that will really help you when it comes to executive presence, and it is a buzzword that honestly it drives me crazy because I feel like it's so overused, but I mean it is what it is. It's inclusion. It's to actively be more inclusive, and it's to talk about inclusion. It's to, even say, I'm just thinking in my course as well, I have a module on embodying inclusion and emotional intelligence. And in it, I've given you an inclusive decision-making tool that is going to absolutely make you stand out 1,000,000% over your peers. Because if you have to make a decision, I walk you through in this framework how to make a more inclusive decision. Now, you may not want to use it for all decisions, you'll be there all day, but there might be some big decisions where you really do need to be inclusive and consider multiple different demographics within your organization. And that's where really stepping up into inclusion and not being HR bringing it up, but you as a leader, for example, if you are designing a building, for example, this is why I designed this tool. Actually, I just remembered when I was leading a capital project, and I was the capital project team lead of this $60 million project before I left my last company. And we of course, budgets were tight as they always are. And we were looking at the restroom facilities, the bathrooms, the toilets. And I really wanted to put in a room for like breastfeeding mothers. Actually, it came from the top. They had the head or the VP of my department had suggested it, which I thought I was just so happy that somebody was talking about it. But of course, when I went into the room with the engineers and finance, we didn't have the budget, so we had to kind of cut it. And I'm really sorry that if I had the tools that I have now and I have the understanding and the knowledge of the impact of that now, I probably would have fought for it more. Because actually, the more we evolve, the more we move forward, the more women are going to really want those kind of things. It's the same with prayer rooms and stuff like that. You've got to start thinking ahead that the generation behind us are not as happy as we were to comply. They want balance. They want it, they want more rounded experience of life, and rightly so. So I believe that is so, so important. So just to summarize on these 7 ways to boost your executive presence. Number 1, work on your confidence. Number 2, make really good, faster, rapid, disciplined decisions. Number 3, be more assertive while still being true to yourself and being nice. Number 4, build your gravitas, okay? Have a clear vision and bring people along. Number 5, watch your body language and really use it to your advantage. Number 6, make sure that you're polished, but also be authentic. And number 7, make sure you are focusing on inclusion. So they are the 7 things. Which one will you action? Which one landed with you? I'd love to know if you're going to do something on this today. And just make a conscious effort to really step into your next level of leadership and do some of these things. And if you're feeling called, I would love for you to check out the Executive Presence Blueprint. The feedback has been phenomenal. In fact, one of the ladies said that she had done executive presence training in work, but that my course was far superior and it was far more practical with lots of, the tools. Like, side note, I know how busy you are. I know you don't have time to be spending hours on stuff. That's why everything is super practical and super simple, but really, really effective. So that's lucygernon.com/EP, and we will link it in the show notes too. And if you'd like any more episodes, I did record a 3-part mini training on this podcast. It's an executive presence series where you're going to learn a lot more about this in a bit more detail. So you can go and check that out if you just go into the podcast right now and search for executive presence within the podcast, or we will link it in the show notes so you can continue to binge podcasts if you're anything like me. If you enjoyed this week's episode of the show, can you do me a favor? A small favor. Can you please rate and review it? Every single rate and review helps us to grow the show. It really gives us a lot of energy back. And if you've enjoyed it, please spread the word. If you have a women's network in work, maybe send it to the leads and ask them to distribute it as a resource. I get such amazing feedback from companies who do that. Send it on to your female leader friends and just spread the word. We would be so, so grateful. So until next week, I hope you have a wonderful week. Same time, same place next Wednesday. Bye for now.